out of the window. The reason is this gentleman over there. Let me start by being typically non-Middle Eastern honesty, because we value politeness more than we value truth, unfortunately. Because somewhere, politeness and truth can unify. And I'll show you a lot of examples for unification now. By any case, I have to admit first that I was going to endure this occasion just to be with my good friend and to give the talk I'm going to give now. So I was going to endure it. But I'm wrong. Like so many times before, I'm totally wrong. I couldn't find a more appropriate setting for what I want to talk about than this music of this gentleman, which when I was 17, I would thought he is talking crack pottery. And when I met Scott, whom I'm extremely fond on a personal level, but on a scientific level, although we found ourselves talking about the same thing, but there could be no two different people talking about the same thing than me and him. Okay, I am an engineer. That is, I am trained as an engineer, a hard-nosed scientist called engineer. And in time, I make this gentleman become as hard-nosed as I am so that we can meet really. But because he's such a nice man, I endure him.
Thank you very much.
Waiting for the year or time where we will talk a similar language, which I will teach him how to talk it. Because I'm a mathematician, I'm an engineer, physicist, and I read a lot of rubbish in this. But in any case, the truth of the matter, he made me now talk his language. He taught me to think like him. As a matter of fact, far more than I ever wished, nor did he wish. Because now we will have either total opposition to what we were talking about, or we are going to change the world. What I found, and I swear to you, I am extremely down to earth, initially trained as a civil engineer. There can be nothing down to earth than a guy who built sewer, who built bridges, built houses, built roads. That is where I was trained. And I know also history very well. Being born in the Middle East, you are born in mystery, in history, or mystery also. But in any case, I know you have to avoid philosophy if you have to go forward. And we know that from the Arab, who said to the Greeks, stop philosophizing about things, atom you don't see, and all these sort of things. You are very good at geometry because you can draw the line and can Euclides, sitting in Alexandria, can write his book, because he wrote it in Alexandria, Egypt, not in Greece. And Pythagoras, as we say, Pythagoras, he was a student in Alexandria, not teaching in Alexandria, he was learning in Alexandria. Now the situation changed. By any case, you have to stop all this. You have to be pragmatic. You go and make experiment, and from experiment you learn and think about it. You can build a theory, then you go and try to see which experiment can confirm what you're saying is right or wrong. And it is a truth that only through this, and by keeping the theory, the philosophy out, we were able to build this modern society we are living in. We have aeroplane, not by philosophy. We have a lot of these things really by the Arab method, which was refined and put in a book by an English gentleman when they arrested him and put him in the Tower of London. Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon developed this. But we have developed so far, so much, that practically we are coming, and in my case, with the help of my friend, whom I endured, we are coming to the point, really we have to think deep philosophically. It is the end of the Arab and Sir Francis Bacon method, which brought us all these technical wonders, which we, at the end, we don't understand because we have a plane, we have a car, we have houses, we go even to war and we don't know why. We just do it because we are very clever at it. That stop. And the funny thing then, what we will discover far exceed our imagination about our knowledge, about how we can even control, to a certain extent, what we found ourselves living in, which is space and time. So I would say till about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I would say space-time, if it exists, if the ether exists, ether, or there are a lot of big names and big words, very elegant, mostly Latin or Greek, or a combination of both, to cover up our ignorance of what we are talking about. So we find an intelligent, a very, very elegant word. Actually, Goethe said that, but it was Mephistopheles. It was the devil teaching the student and telling him, when you are at an awkward situation, just find a nice word, and then everything will be solved. The devil would say that. But in any case, I would have thought till 2 months ago that we have ferrous things, matter, and then we have this space. It was inconceivable for me to pronounce it really and to say we will have something from nothing. You say it in a philosophical sense, but you don't say it seriously, that you are going to take this nothing and make it to something. Okay, I was working, however, on this subject for a long time, and I know the American, the only nation in the world which will spend $1 billion just to know if there is dark energy or there isn't. But they did. And 3 people even got a Nobel Prize for finding things which they don't understand. They didn't explain it. But just the shock to know that only 4.5% of the energy density which we expect to be in this universe, only this the energy we can find. And the rest isn't there at all. To make even things worse, the American again, by all the amount of money they spent, and don't believe when you find an Egyptian and find something in Egypt, or an Australian even find somebody in Australia. Any one of us at the end, we were relying on what your government can do, because you are the most powerful, the most rich, and the most determined and strange nation in the universe. I must know it because I'm Egyptian and I have an American daughter. So I live that every day. Now, nevertheless, because of this philosophical stupidity, thinking of myself as a hard-nosed scientist who doesn't talk crack pottery, but go into the laboratory and find this thing and explain this thing, I didn't notice that I am contradicting myself when I say matter comes first and then nothing comes second. No. The good news, it is a good news, as I will explain, because we can make reactors now, in principle. We haven't done it yet. But God willing, look, I'm saying God willing, although I excluded the word God completely out of my language, so I am a Muslim. Never talk about God. Because I read that Poisson, when he was sitting, or was Lagrange, I can't remember exactly, so long ago, he was sitting beside Napoleon. And Napoleon of all people on the world, Napoleon was asking the scientists, I can see God in your research. And this great scientist answered, oh, God, I have no need for this hypothesis. I have no need for this hypothesis. So, of course, I wanted to be like him, so I excluded the word God completely out of my work. But it turned out at the end, to make a very long story, mediumly short. Mediumly short. We were making enormous mistake because we think something which is infinitely large, it could not be confined into a finitely large thing. No, we can't. It's all been proven in pure mathematics, but then as a hard-nosed engineer and physicist, I don't read pure mathematics. Then we are making enormous mistake by thinking zero is nothing, and empty is zero, and nothingness is what we are talking about when we talk about zero and empty and nothing. No, they are completely three different notions. And you see, the problem which we are encountering on practical everyday life is connected at the end to philosophical defect in our education and our knowledge of very simple things like what is zero, what is empty, and what is nothing. Our education and upbringing, that things which we can see and we can touch, not even in principle, are not there. This is complete nonsense. This thing between me and you, which exists, they say, is nothing. If you take the electromagnetic waves and all this air and even virtual particle and atomic particle and everything which we can see, including things even which we see, like the photon which is coming from this lamp. If we take all that, we still don't have nothing. We have something. If it would be nothing, we would be all squeezed into a non-existing point. All this was worked out in mathematics long ago by a man who was driven to insanity, really. He is a German from Russian origin, Moroccan Jewish origin, Georges Cantor. But most people think of Georges Cantor as German, doesn't matter where he comes from, but he suffered so much because his colleague will not appreciate him like I didn't appreciate the man I liked long ago, because I thought what he's saying is over the top. In my case, I was very successful in my life. So I didn't fare the way Cantor fared, because he died in mental institution, driven to insanity by his colleagues, which would not understand what he said. Luckily now, it is well established that, I mean, this is really true. The foundation of every physical science is mathematics. The foundation is mathematics, is set theory, and set theory is work almost single-handedly of Georges Cantor. It was developed, of course, by a school which is really was inhabited, was in a monastery, and it's called Moscow School of Mathematics, which actually historically might be interesting how when you talk about something very profound, at the end, the Tsar of Russia was forced to send a warship to close his school. That much he felt threatened. At the beginning, the communists who took over the role of the Tsar took over exactly the same role. They encouraged this school for a long time, and big names in mathematics came out of it. But at the end, the Communist Party realized the Tsar was right. They have to close it down also. And they did close it, but not before they achieved a lot of things. We closed it by our practical, pragmatic, stupid, short-sighted attitude, which would make even a highly educated man who can sing a lot of arias and whistle Wagner still thinks this is not music. Because something is in every one of us, something of the stupid prejudice which we have to fight again and again and again, our own insanity, and to realize there is room for intuition, there is room for intelligence which doesn't express an equation, and you don't need to write a differential equation to understand the world. In fact, I have understood the world without anything except a secret weapon, which I have now in my pocket. I'll show it to you. And I discovered, to my pain, that he is right, I'm wrong. You're right, I'm wrong. C'est la vie. The world is just a golden mean computer. And I really designed this golden mean computer, so I'm not asking for funding. I'm not just cruising for funding. Most scientists who work very hard on science nowadays, they spend about 90% of their time not on research, but on funding. And the 10%, if that's left, they make research. So here, now, not keep you in suspense. It costs about £20, I think, in England, but here it might be cheaper. It's a pocket calculator. And this is the universe, in a sense. Because I don't use number in it. I use only a single number, like he said, and just cover everything, and I can calculate everything without supercomputer, without hundreds of people working in a maniac like von Neumann was doing when he was in Los Alamos trying to make a hydrogen bomb. I mean, if he thought about it for a while, he wouldn't have done it, right? But in any case, because I use the golden mean, and I cannot tell you what the golden mean is accurately. The most accurate things cannot be said accurately. As a matter of fact, when you think very accurately, you become inaccurate. The only accuracy comes from fuzzy thinking. Wow, that means my sharp intellect is a problem here. I have to unsharpen it and make it fuzzy. Otherwise, I will not understand things. So, symbolically, I can tell you what the golden mean is. I can cheat you. I say, it's square root of 5 minus 1 divided by 2. And then I can tell you how much it is. It's equal 0.6180339825, and then I get tired because I can't. The first 3, 4 are normally sufficient for us human beings to work with. But then I haven't told you how much it is exactly, the golden mean. And I cheat by telling you square root of 5. But if you ask me now, what is the square root of 5? I will say 2.236, but then I stop, I will not remember. There is no way I can write it like 1/3 of something is 1 divided by 3. This is definite. But then, what is y? Yes, 3 parts. I cannot do that with the golden mean. Not only that, it is the most resilient number. It's a number which substitutes for, let's say, friction. If this floor would be frictionless, I wouldn't be able even to stand up and move. There is friction, which keep me in place. It's called stability in engineering. And this irrationality, we call it a mathematic of the golden mean, when you expand it, is substitute for friction. It turned out at the end that nothingness and empty and zero are three different things, and space-time is an empty set. And this empty set is something. And this something, I can structure it and extract energy of it. As a matter of fact, if I succeed of making this atomic reactor, which is not atomic at all, but it's a quantum mechanical ideas which are involved here, similar to atom bomb, similar to an atomic electricity station, but simply restructuring the space we are sitting here. Restructuring the space in this room, the empty space of this room, in a way which I will explain later, will not only explain dark energy and why dark energy, and this is, which we can't see and we suspect it doesn't exist, we can't measure, it's pushing the world so that the world is accelerating and getting bigger and bigger. Again, you guess which nation discovered that? America. So, all this, the energy in such a room will be sufficient to give energy not only to the energy-hungry United States of America, that you no more need oil at all, whatsoever. It doesn't matter what Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi or whoever. It's enough for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, the energy encapsulated here. After all, the universe, when you think about it, it's almost empty. Okay, we have the moon near to us and the sun also not that far, but then the galaxies and the galaxies of the galaxies, you know, it's almost empty. Yes, but this empty is real, and this empty is what gives rise to the zero sets, which we are zero sets, and space-time is empty sets. We are zero set, empty set, and the only thing is nothingness when there is no question even to ask. Nothing is there. It is, for us human beings, this is the most difficult thing to think of, nothingness. And definitely, for me now, after having learned from my past experience with mistakes, I would say this is definitely not nothingness. This is an altered state, like the music he have performed now. It's really something, what you have been doing. And I am privileged to be with you today, and I thank you, really, seriously, not politely English, Germanic, polite, truthfully. Okay, I thank you for giving me the chance to talk here. And now we will go a little bit into more details. But this is the all-over picture, which I find now, I find it's engineeringly possible through something called nanotechnology to build a reactor which have nothing in it at the end except empty space, which in mathematics is called the empty set, and was done long ago by George Cantor, who had to die alone in a mental institution because he said what I said. Why am I now a courageous man, although I am successful in my life, which means I am a coward? So why should a coward be able to stand and play the brave man? I'll give you also the secret, because we are in a session of truthfulness. A Nobel laureate whom I know for many, many, many years, and his name is Frank Belichick. He's American. And as the name say, he must be coming somewhere from Slavic background, but Frank was also very courageous. And 2 months ago, he made a video and put it on the internet. It was really a conference, a small conference like this, and he was together with a fantastic guy, a very clever science communicator, just the role which I hope he can do now is Lawrence Krauss. Again, must be German background. And they said, what we are going to say now, we've been highly disrespectful, and we wouldn't dare to say it. But the truth is, empty space and aether is not empty, it is immaterial. And in fact, I wrote a paper which was published in a journal devoted to material science, that empty space is a material. It's the most advanced material which we can use to create things beyond our imagination. So all the time, what had inhibited us from doing that? We inhibited ourselves by being so materialistically narrow-minded. Imagine everything is this world, everything you have, you catch it, everything is just flesh or stones or this. While the most important thing, and this is not crackpot or religious fantasy or anything, this is scientific fact. The most important thing is this nothing which we impertinently, without being ashamed, calling it nothing. It is everything. This thing which we don't see, we don't touch, we don't catch, is everything. Actually, I would have thought this very simple thing to have explained that we were wrong from the beginning. The existence of love is the proof that material things are not the most important thing. Otherwise, love wouldn't exist in this world. Thank you.
We lost our image for a second. What Muhammad was implying is that what he has now stumbled onto is the source of infinite energy that is not going to cost a penny. And am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a little excursion here very quickly.
Except overcoming our own prejudice against our own self.
So my entree into this subject matter was through the study of Plato and nature, and I did a summa thesis Platonic aesthetics back at the University of Minnesota. And in my way of looking at things, the essence of the golden section, or golden ratio, is that there is a greater and lesser version of it, and then with unity, it gives you a kind of trinity. In fact, I would argue that all religions that have trinities, in the end, this is what's going on. In fact, the Neoplatonists taught the Christians this particular pattern right here. Now, if you're into, say, aesthetics, you tend to use this, what I call big phi the greater, 1.618 relative to 1. But if you're into the physics, you tend more to go towards little baby phi here, the lesser, which is exactly the same with the difference of 1. And as I said, we can't really go into a lot of detail here tonight, but at least we can address a few things. Here is Muhammad in younger days, and you'll have to describe, that looks like garnet. Is that garnet ore?
That's garnet ore.
That's our friend. And this is that Natal?
Doran Natal, French.
Okay.
The most unusual thing, an Egyptian, a French, doesn't mix, and the most kind and polite human being I ever encountered in my life. And he must be also then a mixture between English and Canadian. He is English Canadian. And,
can you hear him when he doesn't have this up to his face?
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I won't bother them.
He's English Canadian and probably the kindest, most self-denying to my own suffering, self-denying human being I ever met. He doesn't care except about his research, and he doesn't care if he publishes it or not, if they give him money or not. He doesn't care about anything.
Garnet Ord introduced fractals into physics, and he was
first man.
The first
before
one.
me and before Notar.
So here is Muhammad with Tuft, Nobel Prize laureate.
It's one of, at least before I went in a way which is completely not to his liking, actually to the liking of the people around him. Gerard Toft is a real scientist. Again, very much like Garnet. He doesn't care about material world at all. He is happy to take the bus, eat in this most shabby restaurant. He doesn't notice anything. But the people around him, and he knows that, the people around you, the people who spoil you really, and tell him what to do and not to do. And because he's too kind and thinking only about science, he couldn't endure then what I'm saying now, and which is going to turn to be right. Because Frank Veliček was also a Nobel laureate, now agreed. Now officially on the net agreed. Maybe he disagree later, but and we used to work a lot together. This picture was taken. He's younger than me. He's about 10 years younger than me. But we were friends, and his wife was a friend of my wife. And we used to work in Alexandria. And I like him very much, and I still do. And nothing will change it. If I endured you all the time, but he is not able to endure what I'm saying now. And when he went and met him, behind my back really, because he wanted to help me. And he told him then, no, I don't like now the new work of Muhammad. He's becoming numerology. Again, just words. Numerology is numbers. At the beginning, there was a word, and at the beginning, there was a number. And what is so wrong about number? IBM could be very angry with me because we will need no computer anymore that way except count the money and banking. But for science, if we have a golden mean computer, like the one I have, I don't need an IBM supercomputer. But the worst thing is to teaching old dog new tricks. But I would have thought to teach people who declined into immorality. Morality should be something nice. But try to tell a lot of people about the wrong which is going in the world, which made your ancestor leave England and come to America to be able to breathe and to say whatever they think. Trinity, for instance, was denied completely by Newton. Maybe that's where he went wrong, because Newton is a classical mechanics, but doesn't cover relativity and quantum mechanics. Funny, Newton never acknowledged he was not able to take the oath in Cambridge in order to become a normal professor because he does not accept Trinity. Muslim is the same. As a Muslim, I don't accept Trinity. That's why a lot of Muslims think, that people that Newton was a Muslim secretly. You believe that, you believe anything. But in any case, you can see there is a lot of prejudice. What is wrong about the golden mean except it became so famous that people become jealous of anybody who know how to master this kind of calculation? And I'll give you an example later because I am interrupting you again.
Okay, next.
What do you expect from an Egyptian?
So here we are in Alexandria. This is Garnet Gore, and you can see Muhammad and yours truly over here at one of your homes in Alexandria. And here we are at the museum in Alexandria, and Muhammad is lecturing at to the big physics group, and here is E equals mc squared. But what he found is you have to divide it by 22, or multiply by 1/22nd, yes, because most of the universe is not there, and Einstein's equation does not apply to the dark energy and dark matter in the same way. But we'll just keep moving. Here's Garnet. Actually, we're in, I think this is in
Alexandria.
Is this Alexandria?
In Bibliotheca Alexandrina. We are in our infinite wisdom, Egypt, modern Egypt, infinite wisdom. We built an enormously expensive library when nobody is building library at all.
So today, the best library that I have ever been in is in Alexandria, Egypt. So they've kind of reproduced the one that was destroyed. Here we are at that conference. I didn't know that they were going to honor us, and Garnet had his sandals on. I had my Hawaiian shirt on. Muhammad calls us and says, "Get down here to the museum." And anyway, and here we are in Shanghai. That's Jiwan E. And we're doing a mini symposium on dark energy, which I chaired. And of course, yours truly there, Muhammad. We did a paper together, Jiwan E, Muhammad, and of course, I contribute very little. Let's face it. You know, I may know about the golden.
Turn out to be right, I'm wrong.
Well, that's beside the point. So anyway, what can we use here? One of the things that's been discovered in Muhammad's work is that when he does his calculations, we find that the results, as he calls them here, are almost surreal, because they match up with what's called the WMAP measurement, as well as the analysis of the supernova, COBE experiments, satellites that come back. Everything dovetails. It is absolutely beyond anything that we've ever seen before. And here is one of his famous little drawings or compositions. So anytime you see that little phi or phi number, phi, which is the Greek letter for the first letter of Phidias. So today, this is typically the symbol for the golden ratio. You'll know that a calculation is being done with the golden mean. The conclusion here is that Einstein's formula equals mc squared does not distinguish between ordinary energy and dark energy. And 95.5% of the universe is dark energy and dark matter. Now, another thing that happened in 2010 is the golden ratio was discovered at the heart of quantum physics. 3 labs in England, Oxford, Bristol, and the Rutherford Appleton lab, and 1 in Germany, the Helmholtz Zentrum, were playing with Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and voila, they discovered at the core of quantum mechanics physics the golden ratio that everybody gets so excited about in aesthetics. You wanted to say something?
And then, believe it or not, to show you that it's all a myth, especially in the Arab and Muslim world, when they, he is a scientist. As if, because he's a scientist, you have to have the highest morality, the kindest heart, the most exquisite taste. Not true at all. A scientist, like a carpenter, he might be a brute, he might be anything, but he's a good carpenter. It's a job to be a scientist. It doesn't make you a better human being at all. And people who otherwise super intelligent scientists were so angry, they want to falsify this experiment. And I heard one of them, without mentioning his name, saying, "I hate this experiment. They found the golden mean. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it." Just for me, it's surreal. Where is this superiority of the scientific mind? I think the only superiority you have is what you learn from watch yourself. No matter how virtuous you are, watch yourself. You have to watch yourself all the time and know that you are only a human being, no matter what they call you, president or Nobel laureate or an ordinary man. Here we are exactly the same.
Okay, I should probably back up a second just so you know how we came to know each other. In 2005, I went into the rainforest, and that's what all these paintings are really all about, and had a major epiphany and experience in which I knew all these things about the golden section already, and I was about to write the book, but then I had an incredible experience and was literally, if I can use this language, lifted out of my body. I saw how it works throughout nature. I was awake for 19 days straight. 6 months later, the Golden Section book is published. It wins the first place for design in the New York Book Show, and I sent a copy to Mohammed El-Nashi in England because it was actually Alexei Stakov who turned me on to you and said, you must get to meet Mohammed. So I sent the book. He invited me over. We collaborated. He brought all these papers. I still couldn't believe it, that you brought that day for me on golden sections you've been writing about forever. And so even though in 2010 they discovered it at the core of quantum mechanics, if you look closely here, and I think we could see it, is that 93 or 4 up there?
94.
Yeah, here's his paper. Is quantum space a random Cantor set with a golden mean dimension at the core? He was already light years ahead of everybody, and that's true, you were. And then later we did a paper together when 0 is equal to 1, a set theoretical resolution of quantum paradoxes. And what's interesting is that the golden ratio solves all these incredible paradoxes. So the power of the golden mean random Cantor sets in resolving long-standing quantum paradoxes, such as entanglement, non-locality, wave collapse, wave-particle duality. I mean, it's incredible. And it's when you take the golden mean to the 5th power, you take the lesser to the 5th power. The entanglement part was actually discovered by Lucian Hardy, but Penrose didn't. The only 2 people in the world that we think could have recognized what was going on were Mohammed El-Nashi and Roger Penrose. But Lucian Hardy rounded the number off, and they didn't recognize that he'd actually stumbled onto and was using the golden section in this incredible entanglement. Now, my contribution in all of this is simply from the philosophy that we are now in the process of a serious shift in the physics paradigm, one in which the golden mean plays a central role in the very fabric of space-time. But this is an older paper. Mohammed's gone way beyond this, so that the space-time itself has the golden mean. Now we come to Nikola Tesla, and maybe we should allow you to say a word or two.
This is incredible, really, this guy. He is a Serbian who grew up in Croatia. But I was in this part of the world. I have many friends and I know a lot of things because in the old days it was Yugoslavia. Again, a conglomerate of many nations forced by World War I to become one nation by force. So it's, just believe me, it's not easy to be Serbian and live in Croatia. So one day, when he had a chance to get to America, like me, he ran for his life and went to America. And he went to his hero, and his hero is Edison. Because this guy was a born inventor. He came out, he was very good in mathematics and physics and everything. He was, and at this time, Croatia and Serbia was not backwater. This was not backwater at all. They were bastion of mathematical thinking and physics at this time. But in any case, he came to America to see the great Edison, his hero. But Edison, without making him less in any respect, he was a very good businessman. The business of America is business. That was a philosopher who said that. But this guy didn't have any sense for business. And a lot of what you know as the invention of Edison, to a large part, was to be credited to Tesla. Nikola Tesla died penniless in a hotel. Penniless in a hotel. He lived very long because he had the good genes. He lived very long. And he always disputed that empty space is nothing. He always suspected, but he never was able to prove it or show it, mathematically, logically deducted. This which make me and compel me now, after I discover how to prove that he is right, to think intuition is a far more superior kind of intelligence. And my people in Egypt wouldn't like it, in Arabia also. It will mean that women are far more intelligent than men. I'm sure this is right, because my mother was the leader of the family, and Cleopatra was one of our greatest ruler, and before that Hatshepsut. I mean, because women, you always say women intuition, but you don't really mean it seriously. The men think still they're superior. But intuition is a very, very high level of intelligence, which we haven't deciphered completely. And Nikola Tesla discovered what we know now long ago, almost 100 years now. The point is, he was living also to the time of Einstein. And when Michelson and Morley made their famous experiment, which imply there is a limit for speed. You cannot be quicker than light, experimentally. Logically, it's total nonsense, and now it is nonsense. But experimentally, it's not possible. And Einstein thought, although he never referred to Michelson and Morley in his famous paper of 1905, he never mentioned him. He thought, oh, now I have given the theoretical proof for Michelson and Morley that special relativity is a proof that there is nothing called ether, which are really a giant by all standard of science. I place him, and a lot of other people place him, as the highest level. He is a Scot, but he is from Scotland. Is Maxwell. Maxwell is the one who said there have to be a wave of something. There can be nothing called a wave. Like we say in quantum mechanics, like we learned in school in quantum mechanics, and now I would say, like we learned wrongly from very famous people, that there are waves in nothing. Maxwell said it's not the wave, the electromagnetic wave, which enable us to have telegraph and radio and telephone and all that, wireless telephone. A wave in the sea is a wave of water. A wave, sound is a wave of the air. But electromagnetism, a wave of what? And Maxwell, logically, he said, in the ether. And what is this ether? We have very, very strange property, which now I discovered to be the empty set. It just was not known yet, not even in mathematics, as the empty set, like we know it after Cantor, who went, as you remember, to the mental institution for saying so. Einstein said there is no ether. And he kept saying no ether. But as he got older, maybe he met Scott also, and he changed him like he changed me. As he gets older, Einstein spoke with his distinctive German accent, absolutely clearly in English, German accent, and said, no, there must be Acer or special relativity, wouldn't be right. He said, funny enough, although it is a video now on the net, nobody will mention this part. Even he gave a lecture in German language in England, saying there have to be an Acer. Another word for empty set. There have to be an Acer. And this lecture in German language was translated to English. And a lot of people have that. But somehow you are not allowed to say that, because otherwise you'll be a crackpot. Because there's nothing called empty. Empty is zero and zero is not there. No, zero is there and empty is not zero, and both of them are not nothing. And when we know that, when we free our brain from all the prejudices we carry in us, then we can make technology far beyond our dreams. Because after all, I mean, nature, we are part of nature. Why we discover all that? We are nature. We are, inside me, there is now gluon and electron and all this. And as things become bigger and bigger and bigger, you don't see the original. But one thing survives. It's the golden mean. The golden mean, we've seen it in the flowers. The sunflower is arranged like the golden mean. Actually, when you calculate the average of where the leaf appears from a large tree, it is according to a golden mean scaling. It becomes scaled with the golden mean. So this survived, but we never suspected that this, what we see, also at the very, very root of what we don't see at all, not even in principle. Because even the most elementary particle still have in principle constituents. And anybody who says that loudly, definitely he will never, ever, ever see even the smell of a golden Nobel Prize coming nearer to him. That is absolutely, it sends you immediately to concentration camp. And the concentration camp of science means all the famous journal will not publish your paper, all the famous. And fame is something, this is the only thing which is more powerful than the golden mean, it's fame.
So we got a bit of a late start, so we're going a little bit over. But if we're going to move, let's move, and just you can make some quick remarks.
This man,
quick remarks,
was incredibly, but very important. He's incredibly kind. It's von Neumann, incredibly genius. He is the one who built a computer, was used in Los Alamos. He done everything, but one thing, he was not great in it. He wanted Eisenhower, the military man, to launch an attack against the Soviet Union. And he calculated that they will win. And if he didn't win, so what? We had at least tried. And it's Eisenhower who refused, absolutely refused. So even a kind man with a super brain can make super stupid mistake. There is no Soviet Union and there is no risk of the entire planet.
Okay, next.
Now, the idea of what I say started with von Neumann, but it was...
You want Menger or you want somebody else?
No, later. Yeah, this guy, he lives still. He has a wicked sense of humor. He's a fantastic Frenchman with a sense of humor. And actually, he proved everything I proved. I just take his work and put it in a physical context, nothing else. Of course, my way of doing it was less demanding, let's say. He's a pure mathematician and interested in a lot of things. He invented a geometrical way of seeing quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is non-geometrical. It's non-logical even. But he made something logically called non-commutative geometry. And suddenly I found an example there. Because I'm an engineer, I need a little bit more concrete thing. I can think abstract to a point, but not like him. Go back, go. And he gave, no, the one before him. And he knew Sir Roger Penrose. Roger is like me, he has dreams that the Middle East can live in peace. He is from a Jewish descent and a fantastic man, an artist, and a very, very well-established mathematician. And Roger invented something called fractization. How you can, like in the bathroom, if you start repairing your own bathroom, when you come to the end, you'll find you have to break one of the tiles, because otherwise it wouldn't fit. How can you, in an area like that, put tiles without, at the end, when you come to the end, break something? And it turned out, this is the model for two things, as I showed them, and other people also. Two things, mind-boggling. It proves that there is quasi-crystal, which Israeli engineer Danny Shachtman, tried for about 40 years to prove it to them. There is something called the quasi-crystal, which have five-fold symmetry. But
let me add in here, because the same thing happened to Shechtman that happened to Muhammad al-Nashi. They get attacked. And it was even the Nobel Prize winner, Linus Pauling, that went after Shechtman and said to Shechtman, go take a crystallography course. You're an embarrassment to us.
Yeah.
And in the end, he wins the Nobel Prize, which, you're steering in that direction too, I think.
Shachtman endured ridicule beyond imagination, but he was not an Egyptian Arab, but he was an engineer, which is worst. He was an engineer among physicists, and he didn't have a Nobel Prize, and there is no Nobel Prize in engineering. So you see here fame, how important. What is a Nobel Prize? It's just a prize, nothing else. You can make mistakes. But Shachtman was ridiculed beyond belief by a very nice man who had Nobel Prize in chemistry and Nobel Prize in peace.
Linus Pauling.
Because Linus Pauling was attacking American politics day and night. So they gave him a prize for this. Shachtman, the Israeli engineer, hadn't a chance. But then, over 40 years, the proof accumulated. It would be an embarrassment for entire Nobel committee not to give this Israeli engineer a Nobel Prize. So he got it.
Yes.
And this is really a model for it. Penrose, without knowing, he showed how a quasi-crystal should exist. And it turned out to be the model for our universe as well. Our universe is more or less something like this. But fuzzy. It means you cannot see it really. When your eyes in the morning, you can see things like me now, then it's fuzzy. And when it's fuzzy, it's accurate. And the guy who discovered fuzzy logic was an Iranian who was made hell to him till he came to America. And America is one which saved most of us, really. I hope they save me too. And he became the head of the Department of Electric Engineering in Stanford. Kicked out of his own native country, Iran, and not mullahs, and not any political thing. They just don't accept what he said. Although his philosophy comes from philosophy of Zarathustra, who is a philosopher.
We're running out of time, so we should mention
That's the man who gave me the courage, because he is a Nobel laureate, and he now saying exactly what I'm saying now. But in fewer words, he doesn't talk so much.
So he and Wilczek and Krauss, you can go on YouTube, and they're talking now about space-time as being material, that it is a thing. And Muhammad used to be viciously attacked for his suggestions of such. So here's a recent paper now. You want to mention it?
It's incredible. I publish it in a journal for material science. It's very easy to, I was a friend who was the head of the Journal of the Royal Society, and he said to me once, Muhammad, write a paper which nobody understands, then I can publish it for you. Because we publish paper we don't understand, not paper we understand. so in any case, I could have published this paper in the Royal Society, but in a journal for engineers, and I know them, I am one of them, impossible. But because I put in the reference the lecture of Wilczek, and Wilczek have a Nobel in physics, and he's a student of another ingenious person, David Gross. So he's respectable no matter what he says. So I'm very happy that this paper is published. And as I say, you put this paper together with nanotechnology, then we have a completely new age, where you have technology beyond any dream. It is really unreal. And I remember that Cantor said once, I see it, I done it, but I don't believe it. And this is really my feeling when I'm talking to you. I really swear to you all what I say, cross my heart and hope to die, is true. But I really don't believe it, because my brain say to me, this cannot be true.
So here's part of the paper here, that's realizing this futuristic dream of obtaining free energy from empty space or space-time singularities as thought of by the visionaries, Nikola Tesla, Sir Roger Penrose, with undreamed of possibilities in physics, chemistry, engineering, and cosmology. And here's the mention of Penrose fractal tessellations, and then Kahn's and his non-commutative geometry. I'll give you the last shot at this. And there's another paper that he's done, you may want to at least mention. The ether of space-time physics is the empty set of pure mathematics. That one you published in Natural Science.
As a matter of fact, when I was attacked, unfortunately again, I will not say anything against this, but he used it as a joke. The empty set really exists. It's a very witty joke. I laugh myself. Because Muhammad and Najee exist, so the empty set exists. He is right. I think it's very witty. But he didn't mean it to be witty. And he was really shocked that I laugh about it. And I thanked him for it. I say, the more you insult me, the more I become determined. I think one thing I have learned from my mother, I never give up as long as I believe I am right and I am not harming anybody. No way you get me to give up. As long as I breathe, I thank God that I met Scott, that I learned a lot from him, really. A lot. I changed quite a bit because he used to talk similar to what I'm saying now, and I used to laugh about him. So if anybody laughs about me from you, it's only fair. It's only fair.
Maybe what we should do, I mean, there's more material, but I think to be fair to everybody and the people organizing this, let's open it to questions at this point. Is that okay? Did you?
I love it. I don't want to go.
I know you don't want to.
I have my sleeping bag. I have a sleeping bag. I stay here and stay with him. He plays music and I listen.
Let's see. Are there any questions? Anybody have a burning question? Renee, would you give me a hand and run this out to them?
Oh, yes.
I think that might help.
Good. We need an exercise.
Yeah.
Who's?
It's just for information.
I don't know what WMAP is. Going back a little ways, there was something about...
WMAP?
Yes, I don't know what that is.
This WMAP is a shortening of a name. A WMAP is a famous American experiment which proves that there is dark energy, because through this they found only 4.5%, and it means everything is wrong, including Einstein's theory. And of course, you have to understand, meantime, Einstein is not just a scientist, this is a prophet. People could cry if you say he made a mistake. And it become a political issue if an Arab say about Einstein is wrong. But I was very naive and I said it like that. But then, luckily for me, he was not wrong. His formula doesn't make it clear. He made a mistake by which he included the entire space into calculation. So he got the highest density, 100%. But he didn't say that there is no way you can find, using your technology of today, the dark energy. And I can explain it to you in set theory, so trivial that when I said it to Nobel laureate, they couldn't answer, but they couldn't laugh and they couldn't approve, because it is too simple to believe this could be an argument. But set theory is like that. Set theory starts by saying we have a set, and they explain it in set theory that what a set is a collection of objects in a bag. That's all. Okay. Now, when I say space, which have the 95.5 of all energy, is a set. It's called empty set. An empty set is virtually a set, means a bag with no object in it. Now I want to know. So I take my hand, I put my hand to see if there is something inside, then it's not an empty set. If there is nothing, it is empty set. It's an impossible exercise by the most simple, trivial, farmer mentality experiment. The moment I put my hand, it is no more empty. And that's what happened always in experiment. Every time they want to catch the wave, they find a particle. Really, like somebody asked, who's catching my ear? You know? And really, that's what an English man explained, and everybody was laughing about him. He said, you are bringing about, actually it's Thomas Mann, or I think it was Thomas Mann, in Blas Berlin Spiel, the beats, I can translate it into English. He said, we are bringing about what seemed to us as if it's happening. We are the one who causing whatever. So, in the moment you're putting your hand, you are making this thing non-empty, and then you are astonished that you can't find an empty set. It is the definition of empty set is that you cannot put your hand in it to find if it's empty or not, and then find that it is empty.
There's a question back here.
Yeah, Dr. Nashie and Dr. Olson, when we look back at what some people would call the Big Bangs, that bursting forth,
Big Bang.
Yeah, the bursting forth moment that some people refer to, do you believe that there was inherently design at that moment of being that led forward to creation, or do you believe that the design of creation evolved over the course of time into what we call being today?
Actually, I always, because of philosophical attitude, I was a follower in my young guys to the extent that my father thought I am mad and need a psychological treatment. My father, an officer, an army officer. And he was very worried I was reading Paul Sartre, Being and Nothingness. And I was very impressed by Heidegger's attitude and Jean-Paul Sartre's attitude towards this this question philosophically. He say nothing, not even nothing, can exist except on a background of existence. Yeah, I mean, to have nothing, you have to have something at the beginning existing. So I think the Big Bang is a very simplistic way of thinking about this thing. The Big Bang must have happened because there was also something from where this Big Bang happened. As a matter of fact, it's all over, is Big Bang is taking place. In fact, what we call virtual particles, which appear, really experimentally, appear from nothing, and then they hit each other and hit each other, is a small, mini Big Bang. So I think the idea there was absolutely nothing, and then a Big Bang take place and this appeared, I don't think it is a very simplistic. Because the act of creation, which even in my own religious biasness, presuppose a creator, and a creator is God. So there was something. It doesn't come from anything. Just, you don't have it from nothing. I hope this is roughly what you wanted, or what is your question, or I corrupted your question to be able to answer it.
I think that was good. You basically said you believe there was a creation or design that existed prior to the Big Bang.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's where it came forth from.
Yeah.
I'm curious whether Dr. Olson agrees with that.
Oh, I think he's on, oops, I don't know if this, yeah, I'm pretty much along the same lines that, yeah, that the design is already implicit in it. I think we're going to have no more questions because I'm getting the message from the back that we need to actually, am I right? Yeah, she came up and kind of gave me the word. So I'm sorry about that. So let's thank Muhammad El-Nashi for being with us. And it's a real honor to be on the stage with him, and I hope we see some of you Friday out at the Appleton Museum for our opening reception there. So have a good night. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.